We're live. We're live. Holy cow. Welcome to Live with Bottleneck. This is a special edition. And it's a special edition because we have a guest host. Gordon McDougall is going to be hosting today's session. And together, we're going to try our darndest to help stop the bottleneck in your business. I'm actually looking forward to this because I'm used to interviewing other people or leading those conversations. And today, the one and only Gordon, we're going to reverse roles today. So that's kind of cool. I'm excited about that. So Gordon, do you mind? I'll go ahead and just play the intro right now, and then we'll pop into this. Is that cool?
Let's rock and roll.
All right. All right.
We're back.
We're back.
Let's do this thing.
So, yeah, I'm kind of excited. And I just want to add one thing.
I'm really excited. Yep.
Yeah, and this was your idea, and thank you so much for this. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. If you do want to ask a question or share a comment, by the way, this is live right now. If you're watching this in an evergreen at a later time, today is Tuesday, July 19th, 1 p.m. Central, and you want to ask a question, by all means, ask a question, whether it's on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, and either myself or Gordon will be happy to get back to you to make sure we address those questions. But in any case, Gordon, go ahead, take over.
I'm really excited to have this conversation, Jamie. I mean, you and I've got to know each other over the last 6 or 8 months. And I genuinely love the work that you do, and I love your intention about the work. And I'm excited to learn more through you about this industry. I really am.
Yeah, well, I'm going to try and do my darndest because you gave me some pretty good questions, and I had to research some so I didn't sound like a complete idiot.
And let me introduce you. Is now a good time to introduce you?
It definitely is.
Then let's do that. So I'm excited to introduce Jaime on his own live stream. And Jaime has a really interesting background. He was in the military, served the country in an amazing way, then went into large corporations and just absolutely excelled in every position he was in large industries, in sales and marketing and management and systems and processes, which is going to be a big part of this conversation. And then about 15 years ago, he hired his first distant assistant, called it a virtual assistant back then. And since then, Jaime has been focused on making people's lives better. It's certainly about making businesses better, making businesses more profitable, more efficient. And he is genuinely an expert in the realm of making a business more efficient and effective through the use of distant assistants. Shall we start?
Let's get started. Thank you so much.
Let's do this. So I thought I wanted to make this interview. I don't think you've ever been interviewed on your own show before, and I want to make this a little bit unique or different, and set the right tone for it. So I'm sure that somewhere in your 15 years plus in the virtual assistant, distant assistant industry, you must have a funny story. So I'm going to ask you just to kick it off with a funny story if you got one.
Industry specific funny story?
That'd be best.
Let me see. Well, I don't know how funny this is. It's more of a mistake on my part with a blessing of an outcome. In that my assistant Raina, my personal assistant Raina, I interviewed her first a little over 3 years ago, and I interviewed someone else, and I chose someone else initially. And I went groveling back to Raina about a week later after I realized the massive mistake I made. And for those lucky enough to have ever met Raina, she is just wonderful. She's now our director of operations. And so she's just an amazing human being. And I can't believe at that time that my hiring decision was so poor. But it's kind of a funny thing that, we make mistakes, and it's kind of funny to see what's happened over the past three and a half years.
Yeah. I wouldn't call that a slap your knee funny story, but it's kind of a nice lead in to the conversation we're going to have today. I mean, because of that path and that experience you had with Raina and some other experience you had, you very quickly became awake to the idea of having this not just for your own use, but to be able to have it as a business, which I think is really cool. So I'm going to dive in here. I've got a few questions for you, Jaime. So one thing I know is that people, almost everybody, has a tough time talking about themselves. Our ego gets in the way, and we get kind of flustered. And I'm going to ask you to talk about yourself a little bit. And it's a tough question, quite frankly. And the question is, what makes you an expert in the virtual assistant industry?
This is yeah, you're right. This is kind of a tough thing to say. First and foremost, again, Gordon, thank you for coming up with this idea and for having this conversation today, because I really think it's important for me to kind of learn how to share our story in a more effective way. And these questions you've outlined today are simply amazing. Well, and you're right. It's uncomfortable a little bit.
Yeah. But there's another aspect to this, Jaime, in the way I look at it. There's a need for this. And when I say this, for education and learning and understanding. I mean, I didn't realize until I got to know you how deep the problem was with people hiring and getting the right fit and going down the right path. And I've watched you and learned from you. And that's what I'm hoping will happen in this part of the conversation. People that are watching this live stream will get it. They're not going to get the whole story. It's too brief of a period of time. And they might just get a nugget or two. So what makes you an expert, Mr. Jaime Jay, in the virtual assistant industry?
This is how you and I are so aligned. Our conversation, Sara and I do a show every Friday called A Week in Review. And the topic for that conversation, the underlying theme for that conversation is expert versus pundit. And so if I can briefly kind of state, I think this falls in line. An expert, in my opinion, is someone that's actually done the work like a mechanic. Instead of going to mechanic school, like they learn by lifting, they were under the hood, they're working on it, versus the professor who is very knowledgeable from maybe a book smart level, but maybe not so much the life experience that
it's more academic.
It's more academic in nature, exactly, as opposed to somebody that's down in the trenches actually doing the work day in and day out. And I think what you learn, they're both good, don't get me wrong, but I think that's what an expert is. I think that if I'm an expert in this industry, it's because I've been working in it for 15 years and I've definitely found out what doesn't work and the challenges there, which in my opinion is gold. But I have also been so fortunate to meet so many amazing people, you included, that have been able to guide me in a certain way to where we were really able to leverage that. And I think the expertise that I've grown to learn so much is based on that experience, based on the experience of being in the trenches. Not only, go ahead.
Do you mind if I drill down a little bit, Jaime?
Please.
Over the last 15 years, what would you estimate the number of hirings that you've been involved in? People hiring someone? 10, 20, 500, 5,000? Over 1,000.
And what have you? I don't know. It's a lot.
What did you learn along the way?
I learned You know, it's really hard. Even to this day, I still make mistakes. But I've learned to delegate more effectively, and I've learned to make decisions quicker. And I think that's always been one of my biggest, I think, downfalls, is maybe being too nice or too friendly, and that's been pointed out to me several times. But I think what makes me as an expert is those experiences, learning. I've gotten to learn how to read people a little bit and kind of see, what they're focused on. And I've kind of gone against the grain a lot of times. I got fired from a job where that's what we did. It was a staffing company, and I got fired. We didn't fit. We didn't see eye to eye. And here I am, fast forward a dozen years, 15 years later, whatever it is, now I own a staffing agency of sorts. So it's just kind of funny how things work out. But to circle back really quick, I think what makes me an expert in the industry is the years of experience I've had, the amounts of hires that I've had, and what I've learned along the way. And I think by listening to people that are much smarter than me has really helped me grow that expertise.
Okay, so we're gonna move along a little bit because we got some ground to cover here. Where were you when you had the idea for a virtual assistant business?
I'm my mastermind group. Going back. Well, the idea for the business came from my mastermind group. I never thought about making it a business, even though I sourced my first virtual assistants, we'll say, because I hadn't come up with the concept of the distant assistant yet. But that was in 2006. But I didn't make it into a business until 2016. And that's because of a mastermind group I was involved in. They saw them and they said, how are you hiring these amazing people? We want to get that. You should turn that into a business. So I did.
And that was that was where it all started. One topic that comes up in the virtual assistant world, Jaime, quite regularly. I know you've heard it several times. I've heard it several times. Is I'm cringing just to even ask the question that someone will say, oh, I can hire an assistant from the Philippines for $4 an hour or $5 an hour or $6 an hour. The reason it makes me cringe is there's ramifications to that, and the way you've created Bottleneck is to, in some respects, address those shortcomings. So, what is it about the $6 or $5 assistant that really gets under your skin?
Well, a lot of times, especially speaking to, we work a lot with marketing agencies or agencies, digital marketing agencies, SEO agencies. And one of the biggest challenges for them is to find good talent. So what they want to do, half the time that they realize it's time to hire somebody, it's almost too late. And they kind of just want to get a butt in a seat, so to speak, and get this job done. Here's your role, go do it. And they can go all day long, and they don't want to spend a lot of money. Notice I said spend a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
To me, those are two main, big, huge red flags that every single agency owner or business owner needs to be careful, take careful consideration. And the reason why is because if you make a judgment just to get something done really fast, and you want a pulse there to take care of some stuff for you, that is probably the worst thing that you can ever do, because what you're doing is not spending your money, you're throwing that money away, in my opinion. Now, there's every once in a while you'll find that diamond in a rough that you'll just, oh my gosh, all the stars have aligned, and what an amazing fill, and good for you. That's awesome. I am such a strong believer of our vision and our mission, and anybody that comes into this organization, I really want them to believe in the vision and the mission, because I can charge up that hill with all my might. But imagine if I had 10, 20, 30, 40 other people charging up that hill with the same vision, with that same objective in mind. It's so much more powerful. Now, we may have different ways of getting there, which is awesome, but we all are there together. Now, a lot of times when you're seeking out someone that's going to be there and battling for you, it takes time. And if you don't spend the time to hire somebody, if you don't have your systems and processes documented, you need to find somebody that can do that for you. And if you go and hire somebody for $4 to $6 an hour, chances are they don't even know what a system is. We teach all of that in the academy, in the Bottleneck Academy, and that's the big difference here. And the last thing I want to do is have someone come and spend money on an assistant. I want them to invest money into their business. By investing in something that's going to help their system, their business grow, it's going to build a stronger foundation and a bigger infrastructure, a better infrastructure, a different infrastructure, so that they can scale when they want to go, and they can go focus on doing the things that they're best at, and then delegating the things that just drain them of their energy. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I want to just take one more. I'd like to look at one more aspect of this question we're on, Jamie. So there's the $5 an hour assistance advertised all over the internet. I know Bottleneck is more than that. And if you could just maybe give me 2 or 3 points about why that is. Like, there's a reason for that. It's not to gouge I know it's not to gouge your Bottleneck's customers and clients. It's not about that at all. In fact, it's the opposite of that. But if you just maybe give us 2 or 3 examples of why that's so important.
The average industry turnover rate is 38%. Now, this is a virtual assistant industry. And we're consistently at about 5% or less. But there's 3 things that happen.
When you say Bottleneck?
Bottleneck.
Yep.
Bottleneck.
Okay.
The longest somebody's been with us internally here is 8 years. It's people have been offered more money to go work somewhere else, and they've chosen to stay here. It's almost like I'm ready to do a grass is greener thing. Like, if you don't want to work here, go work somewhere else for a month. And if you still want to work there, great. If you want to come back, that's great too. Like,
doors open.
The door's open. Like, that's how confident I am with our team. Because once you go into one of our meetings with our team, you just get blown away. Everybody cares for somebody. Everybody cares for everybody so much. And it's that kind of mentality that really drives us. But there are 3 reasons I think Bottleneck is different than most. Number one, when somebody comes in, we really educate them. We vet them. Only 23% of the people actually complete the candidates actually complete our onboarding and application process. It's because we have so many little nuances there. And if you really want to get a job with Bottleneck and work here as a team member, you have to go through a couple hurdles. Many people don't understand this process. The second thing is,
sorry, I'm just going to pause you for a second, Jay. And so, of the candidates that go through the Bottleneck Academy, only 23% make it through.
Exactly.
Now, on one hand, that sounds like a bad thing. Like, is there something wrong with the academy? And I don't think that's the point at all. What I think it's speaking to is that those candidates that do make it through are of a really high caliber. They're properly trained. They've really earned their place in this organization, and you feel confident that they're going to do a great job on behalf of Bottleneck. Am I paraphrasing that accurately, Jamie?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I should have explained that further, but that's absolutely right. And if the people that make it through that academy, if I wouldn't hire them, they don't work with us. And so they go through 5 interviews, background checks, reference checks. They're vetted. They're taught how to do whatever their role is. They go through English composition, reading, writing. It's literally a 6-week academy, and then they graduate and go on and get an additional certification. That's a special Bottleneck Distant Assistant training certification, and there is where they learn the nuances of bottlenecks and the Bottleneck way and how we interact with people, and they learn about how to do good workflows and how to make sure that we're setting expectations and how to communicate effectively with our clients. This is a lot of stuff that's never taught to those $4, $5, and $6 an hour VAs, virtual assistants. So there's
Yeah,
where
so they're not bad people. They just haven't had the proper training.
no. And you know where we get most of our training? From our clients. They
Absolutely.
tell us what they need, and we'll take that information in and we'll build a course out of it, and we'll build the training out of it. Like, we're trying to mold our assistants in the best way possible. One of my favorite sayings, it's in my book, Quit Repeating Yourself. It's an epilogue. It says, do something as if it's the last time you're ever going to say it. And I have to thank the one and only great Scott Beebe for that, because he shared that with me initially. But do something as if it's the last time you're ever going to do it, meaning document what you're doing. Well, a lot of us have too much stuff going on up here. If there's anybody here that could raise their hands, if there's anybody around saying you have all these ideas and you've executed against every single one of them, how many people could raise their hand? Very few.
Small number.
Very few. So when we deal mostly with agency owners, but also business leaders, they have so many creative ideas. And if they're bogged down in the day-to-days, the things that don't give them energy, it blocks up and you can't create anymore. So you can always think of Bottleneck, and this is how we teach all of the candidates that go through our program. We are the execution arm of any company. So you free up your time, you create, you do whatever magic you do, and let us worry about making sure that that gets done.
That is amazing. I got so many questions I want to ask you, Jamie, and we're not going to get through all of them, and that's okay. But one of the things I'm really curious about, you're a thought leader in this industry, no question about it. You've written a book, you're a thought leader, you've been in the industry for a long time, deeply involved. I'm wondering, as it pertains to work and the way things are changing in the world, what are thought leaders in the industry talking about? What are the hot topics?
So we just talked about it about a week ago. Recession is one of the hot topics right now. And it's not that, are you recession proof? Is, are you recession ready? That's one big topic. I'm happy to elaborate on that and how we might be able to help or support or guide other agencies through.
Yeah, it's interesting. I read an article this morning that said I think it was 58% of people are number one concern at this moment, both consumers and business people. 58%, their biggest concern is the economy, inflation, fear of recession. Fear of recession, I think, was right on the top of the list. So why don't we spend a couple minutes on that topic? So how do you get recession ready?
So a couple of things you can do. If you haven't done them already, you should be reviewing your current finances and looking at what your projections are as far as future business coming in over the course of the next 6 months, right? So what's the definition of a recession there, Gordon? You told me the other day.
2 quarters of negative growth.
Correct. So you're looking at about 6 months, and that's kind of the definition of a recession. What's happening over the course of the next 6 months in your business? At the current levels, are you able to maintain? How far off can your income fall off before you're in trouble? Do you need to establish a line of credit? Do you need to do something like that in order to make it through the time? These are all questions you should be asking. And then the biggest question you should be asking is thinking forward. How are you going to position yourself to support your clientele and your prospects and help guide them? Why will they need your product or your service to get you through this next 6 months? Now, if you start thinking like that, now all of a sudden the mentality in your messaging shifts a little bit. What we're doing is we recommend every single agency should have 10% or more remote assistants in their agency, 10% or more. So if you have 10 people, have at least one assistant that's remote, or a distant assistant, a virtual assistant. More's even better. We are, by the way, 100% remote, 100%. We have no office. We have none of that. We're 100% remote. And I'm very proud to say I'm very comfortable with the recession coming up, that we're going to be able to overcome that. And the reason why is because everything has been recorded, documented, and we're ready to roll. And that we've also had meetings on this. Like, this is what we need to do in order to get us through here. And this is the messaging we need to share with our clients and our prospects so that they know it's a good and smart financial decision to hire a remote-based distant assistant versus, hiring somebody there sitting at a desk, paying the high cost of, the FICA insurance and unemployment insurance and oh my gosh, phone system and computer system and all this other stuff, only to have them leave maybe in a month or 2 or 3. Because right now it's crazy with this great resignation, everything going on. With our distant assistants, like I said, they're here to stay.
Yeah, and I want to touch on something here, Jamie, and it may get a little touchy-feely for a second. In some ways, what you're describing is kind of a commercial for Bottleneck, kind of a promotion of Bottleneck. Nothing wrong with that. Having gotten to know you over the last 6 or 8 months, that simply is the opposite of who you are and why you do what you do and why you get up in the morning. I mean, your passion for helping business owners, business managers. I mean, is this a for-profit business? I believe Bottleneck is a for-profit business. And that's not the driver. And I wanted to ask you this question for a long time. So I've asked the question. So what is this all about for you?
So, yeah, that's a good question. And I've told you this story before, but I think it begs repeating. It's worth repeating because I think it's you don't know what you don't know until you experience something, and then at least you know what you don't know, so that you can go about these obstacles that will surely come up that you're not aware of yet, but you'll have a better idea of how to navigate them. And what I didn't know when I first started this was, wow, look at that projection, boy, I could make a lot of money. Yes. I want to go make a lot of money. And I really thought that's why I was getting into this, because I could, source a lot of candidates. And, there's a bunch of people in this industry that make a ton of money. And then I got the phone call from the client that said, hey, on a Saturday morning, by the way, and after a quick exchange, talking with this person, I said, why are you calling me? It's Saturday. You're not supposed to be working. He said, that's why I'm calling. I wanted to let you know. And he had a very successful marketing agency. And he said, this is the first Saturday I've taken off in over a year. And I want to let you know it's because of the assistant that I hired over 90 days ago. They've relieved me of all this extra stuff. And so today I'm sitting here on my porch with my wife and my son, and we're just enjoying the day. And I thought, oh my gosh. Then moments later, the phone rustles away, and his wife said, hey, thanks for giving me my son back, or my husband back. And that, I actually got really emotional, because I was like, holy cow, we actually created a business that is literally affecting someone's personal life. And that's also what made me explore the difference between a work-life balance and life balance. I learned a big lesson that day, that there is no work-life balance. There's only life balance. And it's so huge. And that motivation, that's what we share with the team every time we meet, every week, is how do we affect more people's lives for the positive? And as cheesy as that may sound, it's how we feel. And we don't run away from challenges or issues. If there is a challenge or issue, we hit it head on and we take care of it the best we can. We're big people here. We got thick skin. We can take the criticism, because we know that only makes us bigger and better and stronger. And actually, in this day and time, it's a little different, because if you have a lot of problems with somebody, they just simply stop talking to you. They just turn tail and run away. That's not us. And we truly are there to improve people's lives, both personally and professionally.
Cool. Moving along a little bit of a different direction here. And I'm going to combine a few questions into one. because I think we're getting close to running out of time. Jamie, how are we doing for time?
Yeah, we're doing okay. We're right about 30 minutes, but if you want to go a little bit longer, I'm
Okay.
okay with that.
So what I'm curious about is work is changing. The world of work has changed. First, it changed really dramatically with COVID, with the pandemic. People had to learn how to work remotely. A lot of people who hadn't worked remotely had to learn how to work remotely. Businesses had to cope with making this massive transition overnight. And now I don't know whether we're through the pandemic or whether we're through, that's not the topic. And the world of work has changed forever. And what do you see happening over the next few years in the world of work?
It's hybrid. It's a hybrid model, hands down. And you don't need my expert opinion on that. And I will say it's expert because I researched the living daylights out of this particular topic. But geez, you can go just about anywhere, and that word hybrid business model comes into play. And this is where my 10% of your organization should be remote based, virtual assistant, distant assistant, whatever it is.
And why is that, Jamie? What are the specifics?
Yeah, I will. And I'll tell you a little story that was conducted by on a site called dojo.co, where they studied a software company. And this was right after that the pandemic hit and everybody got sent home. Well, they were a software company, so obviously they had coders. And these coders, programmers, they got judged productivity-wise by the number of lines of code that they wrote each day. Well, their productivity when they got sent home from the office increased by 70%.
Wow.
70%. That's life-changing. There was a problem. I will say a challenge, since I don't like that word problem. There was a challenge in that there were software updates and releases weren't getting turned out. They were missing deadlines, and they couldn't figure out why in the heck, if their productivity has increased so much, are we missing these updates deadlines? And it found out that because they were remote, they lost that collaborative element. And they weren't able to talk back and forth and fix, because there was all these bugs and stuff when they tried to put all the code together. So they realized they had to have this collaborative element, which mean in office or closely working with someone, to where you could say, hey, what did you put, and that got things back on track. But here's the gold. They did find that approximately 10% of the 200 people that worked at this organization could still not only work effectively and productive and effectively from home 100% of the time.
Wow.
And what did that do for them? It drastically cut their costs on expenses, desks. It gave them autonomy. They didn't have to drive into work or take the train or do anything like that to get into work. They were able to save that time. And actually their productivity levels drastically increased because they were able to have a better life balance. They were able to spend it with friends and family and not worry about all that stuff with regards to the average drive to work is 46 minutes or something like that.
Yep.
You can, oh my gosh, 46 times 2, now all of a sudden you multiply that times 52 weeks of the year, or 50 weeks of the year.
Yep.
How much time did you just find? So when it comes to figuring on that 10% rule of hiring, I don't see anything negative about it. Some people might argue that people have a hard time being remote and maybe they lose that social thing, because we are social beings after all as a human being. But 10% of an organization will thrive on that, a minimum, by the way, of 10%. And I will tell you, we've always been 100% remote. And I mean, our team is freaking amazing.
Okay.
And
So you referenced something a few minutes ago. I'd like to give you an opportunity to do an unabashed, full shout out, full promotion, here's what Bottleneck's all about. Systems and processes, manuals. What is it? What's the impact?
Again, Scott Beebe says, do something as if it's the last time you're ever going to do it. Document every single thing that you do more than one time. What does that mean? Turn on a video and record it, or write it down to the best of your ability. People come to me all the time and say, when is a good time for me to hire? And I say, start right now. Start hiring right now. And how do you start that? By documenting systems, processes, and workflows. The system is think of it as a big wheel, right? That's the system. That's your different departments that you have. That's the business system. And then you have processes. Think of it a little bit inside of that, a little bit smaller wheel. And then in that is each department has separate processes to get things done. Well, how do you know to get those things done? Well, you document those in workflows for each of those tasks for those processes. So if you're going to send an email, document it. If you're going to create a graphic, document it. If you're going to...
So I can see some people that are seeing this interview, this conversation going, I already have too much to do. I think that, how often do we hear that? What's people's favorite phrase? How you doing? Oh, I'm really busy. And everybody feels a sense of overwhelm and too much to do. So how does Bottleneck address that? Because Bottleneck, I know the answer, but I want to hear it from you.
Yeah.
So tell us what the answer is, because I think that's the secret sauce, one of the secret sauces inside of what you guys do.
I think this is it. I think this is probably the number one challenge that most people that may have not even ever heard of Bottleneck wish they would have heard of Bottleneck. And I think so basically what it is there's things that people say, I don't have time to hire somebody. I'm too busy. Just hire me a rock star. Or I'm just too busy. I don't have time for this. And I'll figure this out down the road. Those are the three most. How many businesses fail, Gord?
78%, I think, in the first year.
It's ridiculous. I've never seen a business plan fail on paper, but I've seen a ton of businesses fail, right? And for us to be going still after 15 years, that's saying something. As far as even the 5 years that Bottleneck's been founded, 6 years, 2016,
Yep.
6 years, holy cow. But that's saying something. Lived longer than most and will continue to thrive in the future. I'm 100% confident of that, 100%. The challenge that happens is if you say you don't have the time for something, that tells me there's already a red flag. You're already too busy. You're already sucked in. I had a conversation with one of
So in walks virtually, in walks a Bottleneck virtual assistant into somebody's organization. What happens in the first 30 or 60 days? I want to not drill down so much as people go like, oh, and this is what actually happens in like 30 or 60 days. And then if you'd add on to that, the impact that starts to have on the entire organization. Initially, it's kind of segmented around either the owner or the manager or a C-level, and then it starts to that systems and processes, it tends to start to grow in the organization, anyway, off you go.
Yeah.
Question over to you.
So it starts from the very, very first meeting with your assistant. And up until that point, you've had a chance to interview and you're feeling kind of good and excited, but you're also a little scared because you don't really know what's going to happen. So what we do is we train all of our assistants to lead the very first meeting with you. And I tell them, hey, it's going to be the Jedi mind trick. And they go, Jedi mind trick? And I tell all of our clients this too. But I said, hey, they're going to pull the Jedi mind trick on you. And they're like, what? And I said, what I tell them is that our client thinks they're leading the meeting, but you're going to be leading it. You know how? And they say, how? And I say, by asking questions. And what I found is that the more questions our assistants are trained to ask, the less stress, the less anxiety that our clients have after that initial first meeting. And what happens during that first hour is our assistants able to make a map and outline of what the next 60 days are going to look like and what's going to be set. to help you. In order to reduce anxiety means you know something. When you don't know something, anxiety levels go up, stress levels go up. Like, what's going to happen?
Fear of the unknown.
Fear of the unknown. Scary movies. You're like, oh, what's around the corner? You don't, people are feeling the same way about their business. Oh my gosh, what's around the corner? I don't have time. If I don't do this, then I'm going to. And our assistants are there to ask questions, document your answers, and then confirm what they've documented to make sure that they've understood you correctly, and then put that into a workflow manual that then is an asset for you. It'll be branded in your colors, everything, but it's every single task you've delegated to them written out in a documented format, Google Docs or something like that. So what does that do? Two things. Number one, your assistant, they're doing that work. They know because they've repeated it back and you've authorized, yes, this is the way I want it done. The second thing is it gives you the confidence to now even delegate more responsibility. And that's the beauty of having
that little snowball called delegation starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Is that sort of what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Okay. So now I'm literally going to turn sideways. So we looked at it saying, here's what happens in the first hour and the first part of having a documented process. Now what I want to do is go over here and say, what does it look like? What's the impact? How does this manifest itself 60 days, 30, 60 days later inside that organization?
I think it gives people the opportunity that were drowning in stuff that wasn't giving them energy. It gives them some relief. If you keep doing the same things and you're expecting different results, what is that the definition of?
Insanity.
Yep. If you do new things and expect different results, will you fail on some of them? Probably. There's a good chance. Will you succeed? Will you learn? I believe if you're not learning, you're not growing. So if you look at it where you're just going to do status quo and you're going to handle everything, this is a good one. Oh, I'm just going to do it because I can do it faster. I don't have to. Oh my gosh, you need to get rid of that mindset. That is
anything worth doing is I'll do it myself.
So wrong. That's so wrong. And I feel bad for those of you that believe in that. And please send your hate mail to me. I'm okay with that. info@bottleneck.online. But what I would encourage you to do is to be uncomfortable by delegating something to somebody else that is important to you. And that feeling of like, oh, I've worked so hard for this. I want to maintain the integrity of my brand. I love this. And somebody else, oh my gosh, what are they doing? Are they messing up? Let them mess up. It's not going to bankrupt your company. Give somebody something that's extremely important or valuable to you. Delegate that away. If indeed it doesn't give you energy. For me, I hate accounting. Can't stand the numbers. Do I delegate that? Does someone else have my business card, my credit card, my home address, my social security number, all that? Yes. But I trust them. In the beginning, it was really hard. But guess what? My wife is so happy right now that she's not doing all the payroll and the billing and all that. And we've hired an actual professional bookkeeper to do all that stuff. Now she has the time to do so many things. But it wasn't like that always. It took time to get there. But I ask you, if you keep going now in 6 months, are you going to be able to sustain that through this recession? Or what if you bring in somebody? What do you think the next 6 months will look like? Will that be enough time to get them rocking and rolling and learn everything about your business? And they're going to be hyper-focused on that specific aspect of your business so you can take your focus and turn it to where it needs to be? I would say yes. It's a huge difference.
Okay, so I'm not sure where we're doing for time, Jamie, but I there's one aspect of this conversation. I've been just waiting for this. I'm so excited to ask you this next question. So a lot of stuff we've talked about so far, you've shared with us, are what some people refer to as soft skills. Managing things, systems, processes. I mean, they're kind of soft skills, and a lot of people I think most, in fact, almost all business owners, business managers, while it's really helpful to hear the context of what and the details of how this can help, what about the bottom line? What about what's, look, I love this story, and will it help me to be more profitable, to have more revenues, to have a streamlined, or what are the impacts on the money side?
Is it more profitable? Short and sweet? Yes. It's super simple. Absolutely. It's more profitable. It's more productive. In my opinion, it's a smart business decision. With the onset of technology and as fast as it's growing right now, we have never been in a better position to leverage our mission, our vision, our core values. In the world has shrunk. The talent pool has drastically increased because we're a turn your computer on and talk. I could literally, we had a Dave Jones, who's a good friend of mine. He's been in our board of advisors. And Gord, you know Dave Jones. I affectionately refer to him as Jonesy. We play hockey together. This is a smart fella. I mean, he's gone to Harvard and has a master's degree at Dartmouth. I mean, the guy is smart. But he really wanted to see how this worked. So he goes, "Can I meet your assistant?" And within 30 seconds, I pulled up Zoom, popped my invite. I had to go to our message her really fast with a ping through our project management software in Basecamp. And I said, "Hey, can you hop on a Zoom call?" Within 30 seconds, she was there and answering his questions. And he said, "Holy cow, that's what you do?" And I said, "Yeah." He was blown away. So many people are worried, well, they're not going to be here right in the office, or I can't over. If that's your mentality and you want to make sure that you're micromanaging, well, then I wouldn't want to work for you. And I'm sure many other people won't. And the number one reason why people leave is because their manager. Without going down such two side of it on a side trail here, I think it's really important to mention that, because I believe that we all get in business for two reasons. First, we need to take care of ourselves financially, all of that, health-wise, because if we don't take care of ourselves, that second reason is, how in the world are we going to take care of those we love? We can't. And so I think if you're smart, especially with recession, a lot of people are going to put freezes on buying everything. They're going to say, "Nope, we're not doing that. We're not hiring. We're not doing anything like that." It's when the times get tough, that's when the companies that take the smart, educated, and make those smart, educated decisions really thrive and shine, so that when they come out on the other end of it, they're ready to go. I've been working on this recession for the last 7 months, so I think we're ready to go, and I'm really excited about it, which is kind of the silver lining. I try to find the positive in anything, but if you're thinking about making a very smart move, you need to think about all aspects of your business. How are you taking care of that business? How are you maintaining the productivity levels? How are you exceeding those productivity levels? How are you making it so that you can make the decisions that you need to make, being the leader or the captain of that ship? How are you steering that ship in such a way that the rest of the team is there to support you and thrive, and you still have a remote-based talent supporting you? It's magical when you get all those things working together.
Okay, so I'm going to assume we have gone over for sure time-wise. So what do you think if we sort of tie the pieces together?
Sure.
So we've talked about remote work, we've talked about assistance, we've talked about systems and processes, we've talked about the benefits of that, and the financial benefits, and the human benefits, the benefits of helping people have better lives. Anything you want to add to that, or do you want to bring that thought of bringing all those pieces together in your own words?
Yeah. I'll answer shortly, because I'd love to hear what your summation would be, because you have a really good way of articulating words. My wife always says, "Jaime, you could have said that in one sentence, and I'll say it in 30. So she's really good at distilling the information. basically, you need to do what you feel is right for you. I would highly encourage you to look at building a strong, structurally fit, sound organization with systems, processes, and workflows. And as painful as that sounds to a lot of people, it's nails on a chalkboard. But the easiest and best way to go about seeing whether or not you're ready for something like this, first of all, if you want to grow, that should be the first question you ask. But the second thing is just take an hour and do a brain dump. By the way, if you're married, let your partner know. If you're living with roommates or whatever the case may be, let people know about a week in advance. Hey, from 9 to 10 on Saturday, I need quiet. Hey, I'm going to go to the coffee shop. Hey, I'm going to do something, because then you get buy-in from whatever that local environment is. That's a big, huge help. Plus, it gives you some time to mentally think about this and commit yourself. Take an hour or maybe 2 hours, have a coffee, and just sit down, and whatever pops into your head, write it down. This may think,
every journey starts with one foot, one step.
Yeah. Everything.
I love your passion and enthusiasm for what you do and what the team does, and for the impacts it has on people's businesses and lives, Jaime. This has been in case I'm being too subtle, I'm wrapping up here. I've never wrapped up an interview on a live stream before, so this is kind of fun. But I think this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And yeah, we should definitely do this again. So I'll go ahead and wrap up here, and then you can take us home. Is that okay?
Sure.
So if you want to learn how you can break through the bottleneck in your business today, you can go to bottleneck.online/BTV. That is Bottleneck Television. It's kind of a fun little thing. You can even go in there and watch the video of unveiling of our custom Nike Bottleneck shoes. That was kind of funny. And if you haven't already, go check out quitrepeatingyourself.com. That's my book called How Today's Leaders Are Using Systems and Processes to Grow Their Business the Right Way. And by the way, with this book, it covers a lot of what we talked about today. I know we were really reduced in time, but there's a lot of, oh, look at that. Tarena says, hi, guys. She's awesome. And then, so yeah, definitely go do that. And if you missed this episode, I cannot recommend enough how unbelievable my conversation was with Dirk Van Reenen. He was absolutely insightful. He talked about the key to growth, building a pivot-ready team. I'm telling you, if you're looking at growing your team, you've got to watch that episode and definitely reach out to him. He's absolutely amazing. And coming soon to your earbuds, moving from founder to CEO, we're going to have a cool conversation with Doug Thorpe. He's an executive coach and business provider. That's coming up Wednesday, July 20th at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern. And with that, Gordon, we can go ahead and wrap up if you want to.
This has been Live with Bottleneck, roles reversed. Jaime Jay being interviewed for the first time on his own live stream. I have had so much fun doing this and continue to learn things. I think there's so many nuggets in this conversation. And I share with you your passion for making people's lives better, their businesses better, so they can have more enjoyment out of their business and, quite frankly, make more money and do it with less stress. So
I love it. Thank you, Gordon. Hold on one second. We'll wrap.